So I've done a couple of videos on God coming from space-time and being formed, but they're a part of longer videos. And this video is going to be how I know space-time is where he come from, that when he was formed, because it doesn't say in the Bible that he formed himself from space-time. It just says that he was formed. And Isaiah 43:10 reads, King James Version, "Ye are my witness, saith the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe that ye are my witness, saith the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me." So we know he was formed, but it does not say what he was formed from. But if we go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Verse 2, and the earth was without form, and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the waters. All right, so we know waters, void, and darkness was already there. When he created the heaven and the earth, he had to have somewhere to put creation. He created creation, but he didn't create the void, the darkness, the deep that was already there, because darkness and space, it grows. And as long as there's space, there's time counting that space, how long it's been there, how long nothing has been there. So that living water, that void, that darkness, he formed himself from that, because it was the only thing that was there for him to create the creation and the heaven and the earth from. And I was like, God, is this true? Is this what this means? If it is, I need some sort of verification, because you need to know that God's the one that said it before you say that it comes from God. And if you do have verification that it came from God, then stand on it and don't bow for no one. Don't bow to anyone anyway, but bow on what you stand for anyone. So I'm sitting there in Munfordville at my apartment, and there's some Uno cards on the table, and I was writing out my testimony, and I was going over this part of it. I said, God, before I include this part of it, I need to know that it came from you. And I wasn't trying to question him, but I was trying to ask him to, I didn't want to talk against him, ask him to prove that it was him that was giving me this information, that it was valid. I said, if it is, let me draw a 3, because 3 is my favorite number. And I was like, no, let me draw a wild, because that would be wild if I did draw a 3, if this is true, Kept going back and forth, couldn't decide if I wanted a 3 or wild, 3 or wild. I said, no, 3 is my favorite number. I win with 3, I lose with 3, gotta go with it. So I ultimately decided to go with 3, took my hand over it, up and down, I pulled, and there was a yellow 3 facing me. And as I looked at the yellow 3, I kind of thought to myself, I said, and it's my third favorite color, yellow. But as I was thinking that, I heard on my right side, look behind the 3. And I kind of turned my head to the right and said, wow, there's a wild back there, isn't there? And as I pulled the 3 out of the way, there was a wild behind the 3. I heard God's voice tell me to look behind the 3 that I asked for, and there was a wild behind it that he told me to move the 3. He already knew that it was there. So I know space-time is where he formed himself from. And this is how I know.